improve domestic refining capacity. The UK will sign a new investment deal with Nigeria that aims to enhance bilateral trade and reduce commercial barriers. This is as Britain seeks to strengthen ties with overseas states post-Brexit. The UK's Business and Trade Secretary, Kemi Badenoch, will seal the agreement in Abuja, and this was disclosed by the UK's Department for Business and Trade. It's the first of such deal between the UK and an African country. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has defended his plan to send migrants. Sunak said that in order to fully solve this problem, the migration problem, it's a deterrent is needed, and that what Rwanda is all about. An influx of migrants has become a major political issue for Sunak, who has promised to stop the boats. All right. Let's quickly take a break, I guess, shall we? And when we return from the break, it will be time for us to delve into our interviews. Our interview for today, we will be talking about the state of the Nigerian economy. What's there else to say? There's so much happening around the state of When we come back from this break, let's quickly take a break. We'll be right back. Nigeria is currently facing a severe cost of living crisis, leading to widespread discontent amongst its citizens. Many Nigerians continue to protest decrying rising inflation, dwindling purchasing power, and economic challenges as they continue to struggle to afford basic necessities. Our correspondent in Normal Meji has more.
In Nigeria today, the cost of food and other basic items has been steadily rising, placing significant strain on individuals and families across the nation. With the closure of small businesses and job losses becoming more prevalent, many are finding it increasingly difficult to make ends meet.
So the thing is becoming something else. Please, they should look on this situation to see how they can reduce the prices of things and to help the poor. The rich, they have to pay, even if they say 500 or 5,000 for one mudu, they have money to buy. But I should think that there are poor masses that don't have anything to buy. They don't have money, some are not even working.
I come to buy, as a customer, I come to buy. I cannot buy it, things are too expensive. If you buy today, you go home, tomorrow, you come back, another money will increase again. Yesterday, I want to go and buy Gari Caro. Day before yesterday, I buy 550. Yesterday is 600.
Again, we are buying egg before at the rate of 1,500 naira. At a time, we are buying 2,000 plus. Now, egg now is up to 3,700 naira for big one. Small one now is going for 3,300. The sales self has dropped because nobody can afford it again. We are suffering here.
As small businesses close down, individuals lose their primary sources of income, exacerbating the financial challenges already faced by many. Bigger businesses are not left out, as this economic downturn is not only impacting livelihoods, but also threatening the stability of women, men and youths nationwide.
Lately, your savings is what is saving you. You can't save because you have to eat. You have to survive. House rents are going higher because landlords are saying they have to benefit from it. Food stuff in the market is also expensive, and then they'll tell you, you don't hear the price of fuel today. Some people will tell you, oh, the exchange rate is getting higher. Therefore, everybody's bills are getting higher. And then, if you think about it, you really can't complain because it's also affecting you as an individual, directly or indirectly. So you just have to understand. But in your understanding, you're literally working from hand to mouth because everything you make, you're putting it into feeding yourself.
I go back too. For my 2 children that are going back to university, we are suffering. Let Nigeria clean our tears. Let our big men stand up and clean our tears. Fuel is increasing every day. Please, let Nigeria big men talk about our suffering. We are suffering too much. Look at me before. I will buy yam full here. I only buy 2 quarts of yam today. And people have been pricing, they cannot even.
As a young girl like me, what do you encourage? If I am a spoiled child, I'll have to go and prostitute. Why? Because there's no money. But because I know where I'm going to, I know that yes, Nigeria might not be the way it is. That's why I'm hustling. But as I'm hustling, things are becoming more harder. It's getting more difficult for we young people to survive. It's getting more difficult for we young people to live lives. You see, I always dreamed of becoming a doctor. But because of the way the things are, I cannot become what I want to become. I am ready. What do I do? But because I see how my parents are suffering, I have to come out to hustle. Now my doctorate dream, I can't say it as fame, but it's almost looking like it. So please, because this thing is affecting our parents, and if it's affecting our parents, it's affecting the young ones.
The cost of living has become a pressing concern for Nigerians from all walks of life. Food, a fundamental necessity, has become increasingly unaffordable for many households. According to the latest data from December 2023, the food inflation rate stood at 28.92%, reflecting a higher than expected increase in the prices of essential food items.
Now, no money to buy something. Even rice, I don't have money. Yesterday I wake up, no money, nothing. I don't say, I cry, say, God, who go help me? To see money to buy rice, I don't see. Now I go borrow money, go cook this. See, this is 2 meal of rice, it's money. I say with hungry, with the children. I know what I go do. Look at my eye. How many days I no get strength for body? Because I say, who will give me food? Make Nigeria help us.
And the price of alubo, I've been buying this thing. I've done this business for 7 years. But yesterday I bought this alubo, 52,000. You just and see, that is where they bring corn. I bought corn yesterday, 750. A bag now is 84,000. How much will I sell?
This is where they happen for Nigeria. Don't tire about. We enter market now, we don't feel buy something. Everything don't add money. And nothing change for the country. You people should look over it. Look over it.
For an average Nigerian, a significant portion of their items is allocated towards purchasing food items. However, with food prices soaring, it leaves little room for savings and investments in other essential areas such as education and healthcare.
Should the poor men children go out naked, Nigeria should come to our aid, the president should come to our aid. Things are very expensive. You cannot feed your family again.
It's more than expensive. I bet.
We are in the market now. You cannot buy food for you cannot even feed your children.
Half bag of rice is 30,000.
Half bag of rice 30,000. A mudu of beans now is 1.5. So that will help us to survive. We don't have money, but at least let us feed our family and live happily.
If you cannot afford to buy something else to eat, you say, okay, let me come to beans because it's protein. We cannot buy it. A mudu of beans, that rice we are seeing now, 2,000 naira. How many people? Corn. Since I was born, corn, This year they are selling corn 800 naira a mudu. A family of 6, how can they afford to even buy?
Can you imagine this lady I'm holding is just 20,000 naira leather here? It is alarming. If we should even, where do we start from? The thing is, transportation is high. Let's just start from transportation alone. Transporting the goods to the market is something. Before the sellers will make their own profit is something.
The federal government had earlier declared a state of emergency on food security, unveiling comprehensive intervention plan on food security and actions to tackle food inflation in the country. Despite these efforts, food items are still on the rise.
Ever since we have been selling this fish, at times we do to sell this fish 500 naira. When we buy a carton of it, maybe we get it 7,000 naira. But now what we are selling, when we are buying this fish now, we are buying this fish now at the rate of 80,000 naira. So people they don't know how they will be able to come and buy it from our hand. So imagine fish we are selling 500, 800, now we are selling it 1,500. And people find it difficult to buy.
This goods is going now, it's too cost, it's too expensive. Before we used to buy this by 82,000, now it's 300,000. And they don't used to increase the quantity. And the price we are giving them, they don't used to accept it like that. At times if you buy, your money will not come out. Like this goods now, so we are seeing it now, it's still owing me 150,000. And the way they are pricing it, if I sell it like that, I can't get up to 80,000 on it.
The rising cost of food and basic items in Nigeria poses a challenge to the well-being of its citizens. Urgent action is needed to address food inflation, support struggling businesses and provide relief to the most affected Nigerians. Norma Omeje for Moneyline with Nancy.
All right, let's quickly take our interview now. Of course, dovetailing from the report that you've just watched, we will be talking about the state of the Nigerian economy. My guest is joining me right now, Prince Wale Adebayo, the 2023 SDP presidential candidate. Prince Adebayo, good to have you on the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Nancy. Good to see you. And God bless Nigeria.
Okay, God bless Nigeria. You're trying to make me start on a religious note now. Are we now too religious that are we taking the actions we are supposed to take to solve this problem? Because even the Bible says that faith without work is dead. Since you're starting on the premise of God bless Nigeria, is Nigeria still blessed?
God bless Nigeria, and now even all the problems that we're facing now, it is our inability to use God's blessings. So the blessings are always there. It's a constant. The issues that are on the table, they are very dear to the heart of the people, and are very germane to the sustenance of families and businesses. But they are very simple issues. You know already that what's on the line is money. Money is on the line. The situation we have in Nigeria today is what we are macroeconomic problems, which is price stability. And you know already that price stability has to do with, one, the cost of doing business, and also the cost of living. So when these two things intertwine, then you can have a situation where if the number is not trending towards stability, you will have inflation, and I suspect we're already having hyperinflation. Then you have stagflation. Then you have rising cost of living. Then you have automatically depreciation of your currency, because the function of your currency stability and the pricing mechanism has to do with the differential between your own macroeconomic fundamentals in your country and that of the other corresponding economy. So if the inflation that is behind the dollar is 4%, and the inflation that is behind the naira is 34%, so you'll expect that there will be a factor of 30 in the value of naira, and so many other things like that. So I just don't want to be too technical. The problems, as many as they are, the root cause is very simple. It is not difficult to resolve. And if we take the appropriate steps, we will resolve this problem. And by this time, next year, maybe 18 months from now, a new macroeconomic reality will be on ground. Factor cost will come down. Cost of doing business will come down. Cost of living will come down. And people will stop being too agitated. So that is the problem. But we need to deal with the problem in a very calm, rational way. And the people to lead in that will be the government. They need to behave responsibly. They need to take their responsibility seriously. And they need to show economic discipline and mastery. That has not been the case. They need to do that.
What do you think? Are the problems that exacerbated this situation that we are? Because you said that there were root causes and that there are appropriate steps to address those root causes. But before we come to the steps or solutions, what are the causative effects? What were the issues that caused these things that we're seeing right now in your own assessment?
It started with the mismanagement of public finance. Remember that economy does not respect government, does not respect anybody. The economy respects the choice that you make. So now the government has made certain choices in managing our economy over time. If you should know, Nancy, how many consecutive years of deficit financing we have been doing. You should know how many years of central bank doing quantitative easing, lending money to the government. You know how it is that the money market is making more money than the productive sector. So we've done this over a decade, gets to 2 decades now, or 1.5 decades that we have been doing this consistently. So what is going to happen is that all the money that we are printing and we don't have allocative efficiencies for, all these monies are going somewhere. And they are going into either property, which we are not producing enough of, so price of properties will rise, or they will go into foreign currency, which is what you see when we start to buy dollar, euro, pounds, and the other currencies. And then some of it will go into inflation, because now we have a lot of money with no value, chasing goods that we need but we don't have. So it starts with the public finance, and the responsibility for that it starts with the federal government of Nigeria, that is the federal government itself, FGN, not the federation. That is the Minister of Finance, the President, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, and all the laws that are running public finance. Now, the second entity that is responsible is the Central Bank of Nigeria, because the mandate of the Central Bank is different from the mandate of the federal government, and that, or the government in power. We need to understand that. The mandate of the government in power is to please people, is to achieve its manifesto, to achieve its objective in government. The objective of the Central Bank is to protect the naira and to create monetary stability, and to make sure that since the government is in charge of the fiscal, that they don't use the monetary policy to support bad fiscal behavior. That has not been done. So as a result, the naira is now running amok. And cost of doing business is in naira. The value of naira matters to any producer, because if you have input that is not in naira, you need naira to buy the foreign exchange that's going to give you the input, if you are bringing machinery in or any other thing. And if naira is not stable, and naira is majority of your income, then your income is not stable. As a result of that, your business will have problems. The cost of living side, people who earn salaries and other income will realize that the income they are earning doesn't have time value. So if the 50,000 naira paid to a security guard in January will buy him a bag of rice, but in March, he probably will not buy him a bag of rice. So those are the factors. But the key issue is that it started with the government misbehaving and the central bank supporting the government in doing so. So if the central bank follows its statutory duty, not to be following the government like a pet or a kind of adjunct to the government, the central bank has to realize that it's supposed to preserve the wealth of the country. You know, in elementary economics, when we were in high school, they would teach us the value of money. the characteristics of money. Money must be fungible. It must be a means of exchange. It must be able to preserve value and all of that. So if you cannot make money to be a store of wealth, that is to say, if imagine somebody who is unwise and is paid ₦1 million and he keeps ₦1 million in his house from January to December, that person is already, without doing anything, is already becoming poorer because of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the government of the day.
Okay.
Now, so that is that. Then the other environment is very important in economics. Well, in economics, every law is qualified by ceteris paribus, all things being equal. All things being equal is what we call externalities. And externality has to do with the environment you find yourself. So if you open a barber shop and you invest your money, you are assuming that there will be no riot tomorrow that will stop you from entering the barber shop. So that externality, if it happens, and you cannot enter your barber shop, so you will make the money you are projecting. And that is what's happening to us in agriculture, in transportation, in other sectors, because of insecurity, because of the fact that Nigerians don't. When I was young in Lagos, I was a little kid in Lagos, there were 3 shifts around our area. I used to live in the Lupejo estate. So all those factories, all to Aswani, all those textile factories, they used to do 3 shifts a day. So now you don't even do more than 1 shift because of insecurity, because of cost of energy, because of so many other factors. And then farmers don't go to the farm in many farming belts, in the middle belt of Nigeria, starting from Kogi all the way to Plateau, Bauchi, and
Okay.
So that is the situation.
Prince Adebayo, let me come in here. You've talked about different problems. I did not hear you also talk about the removal of fuel subsidy, which made this the cost of living crisis, which has exacerbated the cost of living crisis, because as a result of the removal of subsidy, prices, of course, skyrocketed, not also minding our foreign exchange woes, of course, what the Naira is, what is wrong with the Naira right now. If you take a look at what the president has done, he removed the subsidy. Yemi Cardoso now has told the federal government that it will not borrow as it used to borrow them before. Ways and means have to be curtailed. How do you think that President Tinubu should handle these policy errors moving forward? Because if you take a look at it, he removed fuel subsidy on May 29th. But if you take a look at where the price of petrol is right now, it hasn't moved, even though that the market favors a move to the upside because of what is happening, but he refuses to move it because he knows that if he moves it, prices will definitely take off subsidy, because the 3 candidates, Tinubu, Atiku, and Peter Obi at that time, said they were going to take it off. I didn't get a clarity from you then, so you could tell me, actually, if you did, what were your policies to ameliorate the impact on Nigerians, if you did? Okay,
thank you. You caught me there because I didn't want to talk about fuel subsidy.
I noticed, and that's why I asked you, because you smartly dodged it.
Yeah, because I didn't want to look like my appearance is a re-litigation of last year's presidential election. I want the government and people to be able to be receptive to these ideas without suspecting political motive. I want the people, I want Nigerians, I want the voters, and I want all the entire political class and the media that removal of fuel subsidy was wrong, will be suicidal, and that you would create factor cost crisis. I granted an interview everywhere, including on AIT. I think Amechi and Akwe, your colleagues, spent like 1 hour in about 3 or 4 on 3 or 4 occasions, full hour with me on that subject. And during the presidential debate, I was one of the few, so another person that didn't agree with that. But the other candidates who got most of the votes, they said on day 1 we were going to remove subsidy. One of them even said, he's not in government now, that I was going to sell NNPC alongside with it on day 1. So what I'm letting you know is that in economics does not respect politics. And economics is not about who to blame. But politics is about who to blame. But economics is about, if you lay your bed, you lie on it like that. It's about alternative that you have to consider and you take your choice. Now, my thinking and why I stopped talking about subsidy and all of that is that I assume that there is a general consensus among the electorate that subsidy should go. And there are three reasons why I say so. One, former President Buhari passed 3 laws before he left. And those laws were popular in National Assembly because they were passed almost unanimously. And he signed them into law. In the Petroleum Industry Act, there's a clause there that says the government will not subsidize petrol anymore. And I didn't hear any whimper from the people at that time. Second, there was the 2022 appropriation that was passed. That appropriation was passed, and there was a cutoff date to stop the funding of fuel subsidy. Subsequently, there are so many other measures that have been taken by the government to try to what they call palliative and all the rest of it. And when President Tinubu took office, he had not even finished signing the oath when he said, hey, subsidy is gone. And there were critical analysis from the media saying, yes, the guy was bold. The president is bold for the first time. He's a bold president. I went on media around to say, he may be bold, but you are going to be in some serious crisis following. So now, what I'm saying, generally speaking, is that it's a policy option. And people are seeing the effect of it now. Now, the government is also saying that some of the benefits will come later. Of course, we will see to that, but I hope people will still be alive by that the benefits come. So I don't want to go into controversial topics because I want the government to be in a good mood, where they are not scared of what I'm saying. They will listen carefully and then can take some lessons from what we are saying. So they're already taking the poison. The effect is what you are seeing on the body. So it is too late now to say, don't drink the hemlock. They've already done the dog. So antidote is what you can use now. Because you cannot now say, for example, you want to reverse and add subsidy. You don't have money because all the money that they were supposed to have saved from the subsidy has already been spoken for. They spent all the money. On top of that, they are borrowing more. So if you say, okay, fund subsidy now, where are they going to fund it? So what they are doing now...
But there's a semblance of subsidy that is going on, Prince Adebayo. There's going on because if they would have allowed market forces, and you know what I'm talking about, we both know,
yes.
And many Nigerians know, that if they would have allowed for full fuel subsidy, the little fuel will be selling more than that now. So there seems to be a kind of hold somewhere. And the government has not been clear to us as to who is paying for that gap that we're seeing. Because if we're buying at the pump price of over 600 now, there is, there is...
I know
yes.
who's paying.
So we don't even know who is paying for that now.
I know who is paying.
Okay, who is paying for that?
Nancy is paying, I'm paying. They are using the taxpayers' money to fund that by the mechanism of NNPC. So NNPC is now kind of using the dividend, which belongs to us, to try to manage it.
That means they've gone back to that era of subsidy, but it may not be as much as it used to be before.
Yeah, what they are targeting is that they have a medium-term frame to do that because they are expecting that the refineries will come online, and when their own, that is these proprietary refineries that belong to the government and the private sector refinery, when they all come up, they will deal with the issue of supply because there's a supply side to the price mechanism. So if they deal with the supply is there, then they will now have to deal with the factor cost because nobody in their right senses will run a refinery at a loss. And when we say loss, it's not just only the cost of the production, it includes the finance cost and other costs of making sure that you beat arbitrage and all of that. So it's a very complex calculation. But what they are doing is that they have realized that a free-falling, subsidy-free regime for petrol is going to be so traumatic. The trauma is this. It is not that the price is going to be high. If the price of anything is high, that's a different matter. There are alternatives to everything, including petrol itself. The problem is that the the price will be changing almost every hour. So it will create panic in the market. So I think what they are trying to do is hold it like that you use to hold a dam. When it's getting too big, they will jump like a few factors. That is why you see that when price moves in Nigeria, it doesn't move in bits. It will go from, I don't know whether it's 650 now, one day it's going to go to 900 because they have been holding back for some time. And when the tension is too much, then they will just move it. Okay. But there are many alternatives that can take us out of this quagmire. I don't want Nigerians to think that their economy is fundamentally bad. No, our economy is fundamentally mismanaged. So if we remove the mismanagement, we will be fine.
Do you think that this administration has addressed that issue of mismanagement? Because our economy has been mismanaged, at least in the last 8 years of President Buhari. It was an economic disaster that was also midwifed by the same party. This is not a political program, but I'm just saying that the same party that has been on board for the last 8 years is also on board now. So how do they manage the mismanagement that they put us into? That's one. The second part of the question for you is, what will be the role of the states moving forward? Because as a result of fuel subsidy removal, we were told at that time, government officials were telling us, those of us that spoke with many of them at that time, if we remove subsidy, Nancy, we will have more money to give to the states. We've been seeing that now, at least lately, from July to December. From the data that I have seen, about 3.3 trillion naira has been given to the federal government, states, and local government to share in the last, that's from July to December of 2023. Now, what will be the role of states, especially as we also confront a food crisis? You're in Paris, but you must have been following what's been happening in the country as a result of Niger State says that it will ban wholesale food sales. Kano State, we've seen the raid on warehouses and all of that. So what will be the role of states now in averting some of these economic challenges? Because we see more ways to focus on the central.
You see, we have 5 problems in Nigeria. They will have 5,000 solutions. So we really shouldn't despair at all. Our problems are not that complex. Let's start with politics. The party has been government since 2015. Even the party before it, the PDP, most of its 16 years, it didn't manage the economy well. Just that if you are falling from a 10-story building, you keep falling more and more until you hit the ground. So I think we might be hitting some pavement already at this point. But the issue is that the falling didn't just start today. What we need to do is very simple. One, we need to know that the crisis, what the government is saying, that they are going to make more money. Many of the governors don't understand the concept in economics called illusion of money. What they are doing is bookkeeping. You know, the president is an accountant. So maybe from that point of view, we'll feel happy that the government is getting more revenue now. But the more revenue the government is getting, is the value of that revenue is coming down. So if you were to do a bridge with 3 billion naira before, because that bridge was equivalent of maybe $6 million at 500 naira per to the dollar. Now, you will need, that money will not do it. You will need about 9 billion or to do that bridge. So the money you have made in addition still will fund your budget correctly. So if you are paying your salary, your staff, minimum wage of 18,000 before, you remove the subsidy and gain the naira. Now they will not accept 18,000 from you. They will be on strike. They will be asking for 100,000 or something like that. And if you give them 100,000, there is no food to buy with 100,000 because the bag of rice will go from 70,000 to 110,000. So we need to go away from illusion of money. We need to go into productivity. The real money will come to government when we can get Nigerians gainfully employed. To do that, the budget will not resemble the 2023 budget that we're implementing. This is not the budget that assumes that the wealth of the people is in their head, on their body. This is what the budget they are doing now assumes that the money is in the hand of the government and government can give palliative to people. So let us make it simple so that we can find clear solution. One, we must do segmentation. When dealing with inflation, you must take important things away from unimportant things. When they are calculating inflation, the price of private jet is included. The price of business class, first class ticket to go overseas is included. The same thing with the price of food, medicine, and essential care. So you must do segmentation and face the factors that have to do with basic living. Shagari tried it. You know, I know you and I were too young to remember, but Shagari tried it with national supply. He was able to do segmentation, realize that I cannot deal with the economy all at once, but let me deal with essential supply. So certain goods and commodities were categorized as essential supply. And there was the national supply sector. I think Umaru Diko was the minister who was in charge. So at that time, they had agreement with Thailand and some other countries to import essential. Rice was part of it. Other things, of course, later, other things were added to it, sardine and canned food and all of that, and it became around haywire. But you can have essential commodities and make sure that they are available, whether by domestic production or by importation. You must make sure that the price of certain essential commodities don't go beyond. Now, that is something you need to do. And you do that in the medium term while you are opening up the field for agriculture. Many of our staples can be grown within 2 years. So many of them are just basic perennial things that you can actually grow. So it's not that difficult, but the most important thing we need to have is that we need to have a government. It's a different thing from having politicians in power or in offices who are blowing siren around. It's actually about sitting down and setting up a government that can ensure that you get all this data in, and then you can be dealing with it systematically. That is where your question about state government comes in. When they got the money that they got from the federal government, each time they go for FAC, they get more money than before. And many of the governors started behaving like emperors and started doing fancy projects. You will see them traveling all over the world. They are the one paying condolences everywhere there's any tragedy. They are the one attending all the weddings. They are the one flying to watch performance and jumping up and down. So they are not doing their work domestically to make sure that they increase productivity in their state, they bridge the gap in their own finance and stop borrowing, because as the federal government is borrowing, so some of the bank profit, you see banks declaring profit where there's no productivity in the economy, is because the state governments are competing with members of NECA and members of MAN for bank loan. So if you are a banker, invariably a governor is your friend, because a governor is trying to borrow money either to pay salary or to do politics or to do something. You know that the governor is going to collect money from federal allocation every month. You are more likely as a banker to lend to that state government than to lend to somebody who wants to set up a factory or a poultry or anything. So this is where the problem lies. So we need to just have a government that calms down, look at these factors of production, look at the twin that is driving people crazy. That's why you see people talking agitated on TV when you go on a first pop interview. There are two factors. Those who are in the entrepreneurship line, manufacturers, professionals, service providers, hoteliers, they have cost of doing business problem. It's too high. Now, on the side of those who are consuming their goods, there's a cost of living problem. It's too high. So as a result, you don't have cheap factors to run your business. So the cost of your goods and services rise. The people who want to buy your goods and services don't have the income to buy your goods and services. So what is happening is an incentive circulation of money within government and those who are connected with government. So if you are a government contractor, you are the one helping them with Boko Haram war, supply arms to them, feeding soldiers. You are making around the spending of money. You are the one helping them to organize money to go and pay ransom, and you are buy guns. You have money, and you are the one also building estate, doing everything. The rest of the people left out of the economy, and because of that, you cannot employ people. And those of us who are employers of labor, we're having tension with our staff. I had a staff meeting online with my media house staff, and I have never seen them so agitated before because of the adjustment that we're trying to make. So this is happening to everybody who's actually enhancing themselves to the economy. Under President Buhari, there were two-tier economy. those who were cosseted and besotted by the government, who were getting different foreign exchange, different access to money, and the rest of the economy that was left to lie fallow. So I think that if we put governance in place, that is what President Tinubu needs to do. I don't agree with many of his policies, but as much as I don't agree with them, if they actually sit down and execute their plans and govern properly. For example, I'm happy that Mr. Cardoso says that he's not going to lend them more money by way of means. First, he's not in position to lend them any money. The central bank itself is getting close to bankruptcy. And then except if he wants to use his power to produce more naira, which will cause a catastrophe. So it's good that he has stopped doing that. But they're also making more money by themselves. And if you look at the budget they wrote this year, they're claiming that the federal government can only get 19 trillion into as revenue. That shows to you that they are either lying or they are extremely lazy, because the amount of money in the size of our economy that the federal government can get just without borrowing money should be getting to about 70 trillion if they really sit down and govern well.
Okay, Prince Adebayo, let me come in here and put this in, because I heard you say when you were speaking with your staff that your staff were a bit uncomfortable, perhaps because you are thinking of adjustments, whether laying off or right sizing or whatever. Now that brings me to the issue of labor. Labor has been agitating. They've given the federal government a warning, and you know, we're in this country. We know what is happening. Labor has told the government that the minimum wage it expects is about ₦1 million. Now, how do you really balance it as to what labor is asking for and what the government can afford? And also, as we close, I would like you to give me 5 solutions, because assuming you were president and Nigerians voted you in, and we're in this kind of quagmire, even though you said you would not have removed subsidy the way President Tinubu removed it, just give...
I will not remove at all.
But there's also a cost to it, because I was coming to that. If you did not remove at all, the country was borrowing to pay the fuel subsidy. How would you have done that?
I found a solution to that. I won't take too much time on that.
Okay. Then you give me solutions, because we have about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 1, labor, their philosophy is different from the historical labor movement. So I think our labor movement, with due respect to the activists, they have also become neoliberal. So many of the arguments they are having with government, they are having the argument within the premises and principles of government philosophy. The labor is not the labor of a pie model of those days or all of that. So, but I don't want to go beyond saying that. 1, labor has no business worrying about minimum wage. Labor has to worry about cost of living, because the minimum wage will never satisfy you if the cost of living doesn't come down. That is what labor should understand. That when we did Udoji awards in those days, in the past, all those who were in labor used to understand the concept of COLA, cost of living adjustment. So cost of living adjustment is what you need, and you need to bring factor down. So I don't want us to worry about the minimum wage, whether it's 5,000, 18,000, to carry to 1 million. The time it may come, if you're not careful, when you will need that 1 million naira to take transport, to buy one-way ticket from Abuja to Port Harcourt. So I think we should leave that and deal with bringing the factor price down. And the 5 solutions to that as follows. 1, the first thing is that President Tinubu should free the CBN from government influence. I know it is difficult. That's not what they believe, because they believe in subordination of monetary policy to fiscal policy. I think it's a wrong approach. They should let Cardoso, each time I hear that Cardoso is going to the villa, Cardoso is foreign minister of finance up and down, I'm worried. That's not my idea of a central bank governor. If I was president, Cardoso will not be my choice, and the economist that I will make as my choice will not be the person who is tagging along with me every time, because when I go to my bank, where I bank to borrow money, they don't give me all the money in the bank. They give me only the money that is my account. And the job of the central bank is to give President Tinubu, Mr. Wale Edu, Accountant General of the Federation, the money that is in their account. not the money that's in the economy. The central bank works for the economy, doesn't work for the government alone. Though government is a major player in the economy, government is not the only player. We should not be favoring the government most of the time. That's number one policy. Number two policy is allocative efficiency. The budget that they've written is a very bad budget. But luckily for them, they have majority in the National Assembly, and the so-called opposition lawmakers who are in the National Assembly are either sleeping soundly or sleeping in bed with them. So they don't have a problem passing through their measures. So they need to go back to the National Assembly and adjust the budget and do proper appropriation and increase the earnings. And they need the idea how to increase the earnings. They can come and join me on your show. They can send a text message. There are ways they can increase the earnings. I think next year's budget should be taking the earning of the federal government to minimum 55 trillion. If they do that, then they can now devote money to the capital projects and create employment, which is the third line. They will create employment and infrastructure at the same time. Then the third thing they need to do is that they need to cancel the foreign exchange completely and stop talking about it and stop setting targets. The CBN governor should stop talking about whether the naira is undervalued, overvalued, whatever. They should work towards stabilization. The exchange rate is not as important as the stability. If the dollar is going to be 2,000 to the dollar, so let it be. But let it be 2,000 to the dollar in January, on January 1, and 2,000 to the dollar all the way to December 31. So people can plan. That's the third. Fourth that they need to do is that they need to stem the rate at which government is wasting and stealing money. They have not learned that lesson. And until they learn that lesson, they are not serious yet. Lastly, they need to commit themselves to full employment. And if you commit yourself to full employment, there are measures that you will take towards getting full employment, and you achieve full employment if you have unemployment rate of 5% or below. And they can do that in many other sectors. So that is, without doing all these things, any other discussion, you can blame Tinubu today. People were blaming Buhari. I was telling them, one day Buhari will go, the next person you blame even worse than Buhari. And if you blame Tinubu and call him whatever name, the next person might be worse. So what you need to do is to make sure that you get these principles right and you have the government on the ground. Right now in Nigeria, with due respect, and I'm not saying a political statement, there's no governance going on. There's no government in place as it were. So what you need to do is I want to put the government in place, and you will know that the government is in place from basic things. It's not the big things, not that Jakarta is not a refinery. From basic things, like a policeman comes on the road, is not interested in taking bribe from you.
I think we have to go now.
Water supply. So those things will tell you that there's government. I think Nigeria should not despair. We have a great country, and we will recover. Thank you very much, Prince Adebayo, for joining me this morning. Thank you, and God bless Nigeria. All right, that's the much we can take. I've been speaking with Prince Wale Adebayo, who is, of course, the 2023 SDP presidential candidate, and we've been talking about the state of the Nigerian economy. Thank you all for being a part of the show today. I will see you all again.